Hello guys, long time no see. I'm your best friend inside XO. Today I'm going to introduce you how can you use Flutter and Python to create an Linux desktop application. The motivation for this is inspired by the GUI Scrappy. It's a GUI application for the Scrappy. It's totally built on Python. And here you can say this is his GUI, it looks awesome. So I was thinking, oh, if Python could do this, then I could make a Python application on the Linux desktop as he did there. So I started my research. I came to the Startslapcraft website and scroll down. What I say is all those different languages that I can use to make a Slap application. For example, we can choose a Python, or we can choose a Flutter. For each different language, it has different stuff that you have to learn to package your application. To be specific, you need to learn how to write a Startcraft.yaml file. Let's continue. Here I'm going to click the Continue button. It will ask you to install the Slap application, but I deeply believe that you already have the Slap application installed on your machine. Then you have to install the Startslapcraft application. We will use this application or not because it's a packaging application. We will use it to package our app. After the installation, you should be able to execute this Startcraft. But wait a minute, you don't wanna just directly execute that command. You wanna say Startcraft help. Then you would say a bunch of different commands that you can use with this package system. Alright, let's go on. Next. First, you will have to choose a Slap LAN. For example, here I'm using the Flutter OCR. Then it will generate the default configuration for you, and you can download it if you want. Before we jump into the development part, I want to explain each different code we use out of this configuration file. To do this, first we will go to the docs. Then we jump into the Startslapcraft.yaml page. For this page, it explains the Startcraft.yaml very well. First, it's a global metadata. What is the global metadata? It's actually the name of your application, the version of your application, the summation, the description, and the architecture and core base, something like that. That's the metadata. It's just some information about your application. Then it is the parts. Parts are the building blocks of your Slap. They are used to describe your application's components, its build and runtime requirements, and those of its dependencies. Let's see them in action. We will discuss the parts later, but for now, all you have to know is that it's just different components that you would use. They will try to compile each part into binary executable file. Then you can use it at your main configuration. When I say the main, the actual meaning for that is the app part or the app interpoints. It contains the program that your user would be used. For example, here I just used one command. We will discuss this later. Before we go any further, I want to tell you one thing. That is, I already made an application as an example of how to combine the Python and Flutter, two different stuff together to make an application. The name of that app is called Flutter OCR. It's open sourced. You can check it out my GitHub. And here is an screenshot for my application. I'll use it as an example for our video. At the beginning, I want to introduce the structure of my project. The whole Flutter project it's actually at the root directory. So that's why you can see here I got the Android, iOS, Lab, Nix. They are folders that was generated by the Flutter framework. Then you can see here we got a Flutter OCR server. For that folder, it contains the Python codes, as you can see here. Then it is the slab directory. It contains the configuration for our Startslapcraft app. Let's begin with the Startslapcraft.yaml file. Let's look at the parts. The first part is called index.o OCR. It's just a lamp to identify a different part. So this lamp can be anything. But one thing you have to notice is that I used a plugin called Python, and I specified the Python version to Python 3. Then I specified the source to be the current folder. When I mean the current folder, it's actually this folder, the root folder. Then I specified the Python packages that I used. Here you can see a lot of them, but actually just one stuff that really matters. It is the easy OCR. Okay, after we specified this, the build system, the Startslapcraft build system should be able to build it. But how? How can the Startslapcraft application know where my Python executable file is? Well, it is because we have a setup file. At here you can say setup.py file. It's nothing but a normal Python package. The package name is Flutter OCR server, and the most important part is that we got a script which called OCR server. For this file, OCR server.py file, we have it on our root folder. At our root folder, we can have a look at it. This is my OCR server. It's the enter point of a Python package. Yeah, but we are not finished yet. Let's go to the Startslapcraft configuration again. For this case, as you can see, the apps departments, we got a command. It just happened to be the bin/OCR server.py file. So actually the OCR server.py file is the global enter point for our application. Alright, let's go on. I have already explained how we can compile our Python packaging or Python script into an executable stuff. Then let's go to the Flutter part. For the Flutter part, as you can see, it's called Flutter OCR. It's using a plugin called Flutter. It also uses the current or the root folder as the source folder, and we have to specify the Flutter target to be the lab.mine file. And with that, as you can see here, this is my main.dart file. It's actually the source code or the enter points for our Flutter GUI app. And for this part, it will generate a binary executable file. And that file, it is called the slap bin Flutter OCR, as you can see at the right part of our screen. So the main logic for the mixture of Python and Flutter is to create a Python script to first start an API server, then start the Flutter GUI process as the main process and the server as a sub process. So in this case, if the GUI was closed by user, the Python server would also be terminated. In this case, both Python server and the Flutter GUI program are created just like they were one single application. So it's amazing. If you ask me how can you learn the Flutter framework, I would say the best place to learn it is to get the best place for learning it is the Flutter official documentation. It's got everything you need. You just have to go there and take an tutorial, for example, at the get started part. For me, I just looked all those materials on the get started part. Then I switched to the user interface part. I would say I have seen so many different explanations about this framework. For example, about the layouts, about how to navigate or routing, and so on. And one thing I need to mention is that if you want to say the examples at their website correctly, you have to go to your charm settings to allow all cookies. You have to do this to let the interactive example render correctly at your browser, on your browser. It can faster your learning process if you do so. Then, after you set it up everything, all you have to do is run the Startslapcraft application with a flag called debug. Why we have to add a debug flag? It's because at the most possibility, you will get wrong. And when you get wrong, you don't know how to deal with it. If you add the debug flag, you will be navigated to a virtual machine. It's just another Linux system. Normally, would be the Ubuntu, another Ubuntu system. You will be navigated to that virtual system, and you can do some stuff to handle it correctly. It's actually using a virtual machine manager called Multipath, and it will create a Startslapcraft virtual system. Here, the name for me is the Startslapcraft Flutter OCR. I can get into that virtual system right now by using this command. Okay, after I get into there, you would see something like this. Okay, if you look around, you would say, oh, here we got a slab folder. We can go to the slab Flutter. Oh, there are so many of them. Let's exhaust it. Okay, I want to build it again to let you see the whole process of how we build a slab application. So Startslapcraft debug. At the beginning, he will try to catch the core 18. Core 18 is nothing but a base of Ubuntu system, a base system. Then it will try to install the Flutter components and the genome environment. Then it will try to catch the Python packages that you would use along the way. He will try to install those packages for you. After that, he will try to build the Flutter applications, the GUI part. He will do the Flutter pop.get command to get all those dependencies your Flutter apps needs. Then he will try to catch all those packages. I mean your Python packages. It will not build the Python package, but it will save it to somewhere. Okay, the Flutter OCR server installed. Okay, it changes the mode of bin OCR server.py file to 7555. So this now becomes an executable file. It's actually the endpoint of our whole program. One interesting part about the slab building process is that it's actually using a technology that originally come from the Docker. Okay, they use the same technology behind the scene. Alright, he just did all the compile processing. Now he's in the slapping process. He called slapping, but I think it's more like compress the whole stuff into a single file, into a single compressed file. It could take a while because the software that or the dependencies that we used is very large. We have used the PyTorch. If you know machine learning, you would know that PyTorch is very large. It has 700 megabits. Okay, after it was done, you would say you just got a new file called Flutter OCR amd64.slab. This is actually the slab package that you can use to install your application. Then how can we install it? We can use a command like this: slab install flutter .snap //dangerous. Before we install it, I just want to show you a scene. For example, now if I search for Flutter OCR, we got nothing. Or we can do it at the terminal. You can say Flutter, we can see nothing else if we click the table. But now, if I do the installation, after it was installed from the command line, if we type Flutter with the table, you would say Flutter OCR is an executable file. Or if we do the search, Flutter OCR, you can see here we got a Flutter OCR file or application interpoints. Alright, let's just execute it from the command line, Flutter OCR. After a few seconds, it says server started, then pops up the GUI. It will get into a downloading process. Why? It's just because the OCR package that I used, it needs models. Because it's a neural network, it needs weights and so on. So it has to download something. But at least one thing we know is that our GUI could recognize its behavior and stuck on the loading page. While it's still in the downloading process, I want to tell you how can you get the desktop inter icons. If you want to have an icons, just like I did in here, you have to make a folder under the slab folder. It's called a GUI, right in here. Then if you go to the GUI folder, you will see something like this, a desktop file. You can go into that file and we will say, I just defined the lamp and the execute commands and the icon. The icon, it's actually the icon.png we have in here. Okay, we are almost there. As you can see, just wait a minute. It's going to be finished very, very soon. Here we go. We got it right. After the downloading, it just get into the main GUI of our application. From here, you can see at the left side, it has nothing yet. But now, if we click the Add Files button, the floating button, if we click that, it will lead us to the file selector. Then we can select a picture. For example, this picture, scene.png. We can click the open button to open it. Then it will start the processing. As you can see, the Python side, it's set scanning. Then the GUI start to spanning in the loading process. Then after that, you can see at the left side, it's the raw image. At the right side, it's the text we can get from the OCR Python server side. So it's just amazing to say that Python could work with Flutter. So with this compilation, we can release the power of machine learning of Python side while still have a beautiful user interface powered by the Flutter framework. So it's amazing. I'll link the open source repository of this project under the YouTube description, and you can get it if you want. And I also released this application to the Slapcraft store. It looks like this. But it's not been released yet. It's still in stocking of this. It says that it says that this application needs a manual review. I don't know if the manual review pending means that it needs some real human to give it a view or something like that. I don't know that, but I just uploaded it to the Slapcraft store. I hope that one day you could see it on the store and you can just install it by using one command. We will see. So this is today's tutorial. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.